Ken Carson outstreamed Offset. This was a pretty big moment last Friday when we first got the news of this. They both dropped albums last Friday. Today we're going to take a look at how he managed to do this and what this means for not only Ken, but a lot of these 2021, 2022 underground artists that are now moving into the mainstream. So let's take a look at this. If you want to stay up to date with everything surrounding hip-hop, make sure to subscribe and also become a part of this community by joining our Discord server in the description. So Ken Carson and Offset both dropped albums last Friday, October 13th. Offset dropped his long-awaited solo album, Set It Off, that's been, around for over a year now. We've been talking about it for over a year. And Ken Carson dropped his latest project, A Great Chaos, that he's been promoting over the past couple of months on social media. And to fully understand how Ken managed to pull this off to outstream Offset, it's not a miracle. We knew that Ken was going to do pretty well, but we're going to divide this video in 3 parts and take a look at it. First off, we got to take a look at the numbers because obviously that is what's interesting. Second of all, we got to take a look at why Ken was able to pull this off. And third, we're going to take a look at the looking into the future for Ken and a lot of these other artists. So let's begin with the numbers. So Ken didn't outsell Offset because when you take a look at the first week numbers for Offset's album, obviously the first week isn't over yet, so we still gotta wait till Friday to get the final numbers, but right now it's looking like Offset is going to be aiming at 55 to 65,000 equivalent album sales in the first week for Set It Off. This is pretty good considering that album sales have been pretty low over the past couple of years, but it's nothing like too crazy. On the other side, Ken Carson is projected to sell 40 to 45,000 first week with A Great Chaos. So these are also pretty good numbers, also considering that Offset has been enjoying mainstream success and being a part of QC. I know Ken is a part of Opium, but they're not as many and not as big of artists as are on QC. So this is pretty good numbers, especially for an artist like him. Doing 40 to 45, more than Trippie Redd did earlier this year, is quite remarkable. But here's the interesting part now that everybody was talking about. Let's take those sales aside. Let's take a look at the streaming numbers, because on the first day on Spotify, A Great Chaos by Ken Carson was streamed a little over 14 million times, and Set It Off by Offset only about 13.5 million times. And this is really quite crazy, also considering how QC has been known for manipulating especially Spotify numbers in the past. So Ken Carson outstreaming a major artist like Offset is really quite remarkable. So now we've established that Ken didn't sell more, but he streamed more on Spotify, to be exact. Now let's take a look at how he was able to do this. So why did Ken stream more than Offset? Now, obviously, Opium has been riding high off of a couple of releases in this year, even, and also in the past. So this wasn't like completely surprising that this album was gonna do well. Ken Carson released X about a year ago, actually, and that album already did pretty well and put him on the map. Obviously, we gotta factor in that people are waiting for a Playboi Carti album, and we've been promised that album with Music or Narcissist or whatever for the longest time, and so the whole Opium crew surrounding Carti has been kind of pulled up by that effect too. We've seen Destroy Lonely sell about 30,000 or 29,000 first week with If Looks Could Kill, which was already pretty good. So Ken selling 40 to 45 isn't completely off the map, but it is quite remarkable. Also, just as an anecdote or as a subjective, perception of this, they did more promo for ACG than they did for If Looks Could Kill. So that might be one part of it. So increased promo, especially on social media, might have also factored into the success of this. And I think this goes to show what a dedicated fan base, especially that Opium fan base, can really do for an artist. And then on the other hand, you had someone like Offset with mainly mainstream listeners who's just kind of like, people tune in. They're not like as passionate about the music, even though the album was great. I gotta say that too. Also, we gotta take a look at the features because this makes it even more impressive. On Ken Carson's album, we had Lone on there 3 times and Uzi once. So that's 2 features. 2 distinct features on the album. Of course, Lone was on 3 songs, but still. And now we got to take a look at Offset's album. We have Travis Scott, Don Toliver, Future, Cardi B, Lotto, Young Nudy, Chloe, and again Cardi B. That is major features on there. Even Travis Scott on there. He dropped Utopia this year, which is crazy. And so people, that wasn't even a reason why people streamed that album more. Also, as I said, considering that QC has been known for manipulating numbers, and so why isn't this even more than that, especially on Spotify? So I really think it is a combination of the Opium really hardcore fan base and the Playboi Carti hype, and also the album being good in itself. I mean, The Great Chaos is probably Ken Carson's best work up to date, at least the most mainstream accessible one. X was still very long. Before that, Teen X was still too underground. This is kind of a first stepping stone into that mainstream now, and I think this is a great project just for that. Set It Off was amazing too, but not in the way that A Great Chaos was as an evolution in Ken Carson's process of becoming a better artist. Now we got to take a look at what this means for underground artists and for Ken Carson as well. All of these artists that were like underground 2021, 2022 were kind of blowing up over the past year. We've had it with Yeet, obviously the biggest one, I think the biggest one. Then we had Lone, the whole Opium crew, Homicide Gang was also blowing up a little bit. Ken Carson as well. So a lot of these people are moving into the mainstream. So Fago as well. So it seems like that is kind of the movement we're seeing right now. But also you got to take into consideration that today we actually got the news that Yeet also went number 2 with I Don't Give a Fuck with Drake, and there were rumors about this going number 1. I think on the global 200 it is number 1, but not on the Hot 100, so take that as you will. But you know, that is still a pretty good move. And this week was amazingly successful for these once underground artists. Ken outstreamed Offset. Yeet almost blocked J. Cole from having both of their first number 1s. So it seems like these artists are really now coming up and challenging the established artists. And I think this is a great sign moving into the future, especially for people like Ken Carson, who are connected to people like Carti and who probably gained a lot of fans, especially over this drought that we have for Carti, and Opium just getting more and more popular, more and more successful. I think these artists can really nourish off of that. I think now it would be interesting to take a look at the yet newer generation and see who's coming up in the underground following these artists. I hope that Ken Carson can have a very long-lasting, successful career. I hope that he can still evolve as an artist and go through some sort of artistic evolution, and I'll be here to watch it all. So let me know what y'all think about this though. Do you agree with me about everything that I said, about the statements and takes that I threw out there, or do y'all completely disagree with me and have something else to say? Let me know your thoughts on this whole discussion in the comments down below. If you watched this video to the end and liked it, and you want to stay up to date with all current hip-hop events and releases, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, hit that like button, and go follow my social media, and most importantly, join my Discord in the description. Until the next one, you'll have an incredible day, and y'all take care.